Today I'm going to show you some more jive steps, and these are going to be variations of hands behind back. And this is a movement the man does, changing his hands, holding the girl, bringing her around the body. So he might start with her in his left hand, and then he changes his hands to take her around the back, and then behind him he changes his hand hold again and brings her round. And while he's doing that, the girl does two basics: back step, 3 and 4, 5 and 6. Now the directions on the two chassis parts depends on where the girl is round him, if she needs to progress or turn. So that depends on where she is and what steps we're doing for hands behind the back. The girl could just be doing two basics to get round him, or she could be turning under his arm. So he might lift his arm and she'd do a turn chassé the first time if he lifted his hand there, or if he lifts his arm here, she would do a turn under his arm there. So variations, she could do no turn the first time and a turn the second time back to face the man. Or she could do no turns at all. Or she could do an underarm turn the first lot of chassés. Or she could do a turn under the arm the first set of chassés, ending up nearly behind him, and no turn on the second pair of chassés. So as I say, it depends on where she chassés, whether she's turning or not. And that is the basics of hands behind the back. It's basically the man holding the girl in either hand. So either of the hands of the girl he could be holding, and he changes his hands in front, either turns her or doesn't turn her, passes her round behind, changing his hands, and normally an underarm turn the second time. So the most basic one you will see is normal for the girl. As he changes his hands, he lifts the arm and she chassis round back in front of him. That is your standard underarm turn. But as I say, you can do variations of this. Whilst doing this, the man just does basic jive step on the spot. Back step, chassis 1, chassis 2, back step, chassis 1, chassis 2. So of course it depends on which hand she's got to start with. He might be starting with his right hand, and for this he could then do back step, chassis 1, chassis 2, change hands, back step, chassis 1, chassis 2. So if he's got his right hand, he doesn't need to change his hand at the beginning. Back step, chassis 1, chassis 2, back step, chassis 1, chassis 2. So the first step of the girl's chassis normally ends almost behind him, and the second set ends up in front. Now, of course, the man could turn slightly depending on your routine and finish this way, so the girl doesn't do a complete turn. But normally it is that full turn. And as I say, a basic to start with for the girl, and then an underarm turn, but you can vary that. Another step of its own, but associated with this, and you'd have to learn hands behind the back first, is stop and go. And it's the first part of hands behind the back, first of all. Back step, chassis 1, chassis 2. And then it's as if the girl's going to complete the hands behind the back with an underarm turn. But as she starts to do it, the man puts a hand behind her back as she starts to turn. He continues with his second part of the chassé, but pushing her back to where she came from, so she couldn't complete the underarm turn. And he can repeat that second part as many times as he likes. You wouldn't really do it more than twice, but you can practice by throwing it in at any point during practicing hands behind the back, so the girl gets used to not knowing where it comes. There's nothing wrong with having a set routine, but if you really want to learn how to dance, you should not have a routine and learn the feels, the touches and the prompts of what's coming next. So that is how you can dance well with any other dancer, by not having a routine, but know the marks and the traits and the signals for doing something else. So a man just does the normal foot step, back step, chassis 1, chassis 2, back step, chassis 1, chassis 2. First part of stop and go is the first part, hands behind the back. Back step, chassis 1, chassis 2. And then he does back step, chassis 1, stamp step, chassis 2. So that's almost a stop, a stamp across. Back step, chassis 1, chassis 2, back step, chassis 1, stamp step, chassis 2. And on that he pushes her and takes her, reversing that first part of the underarm turn. Back step, chassis 1, chassis 2, back step, chassis 1, stamp step, send her back, back step, chassis, stamp step, send her back, back step, stop her to turn, and send her back, back step, turn her, but don't let her continue. So you're doing the back step, let her start to turn, her back will be to this hand as she's starting to turn, stamp and push on her back, step, shutting her back over there. So you're letting her come half under, stop her, and then turn her back again. So he does this stop and go part as many times as he likes, and then finally releases her for the end of a complete stop and go, which is the end of a hands behind the back. So a man does back step, chassis 1, chassis 2, back step, chassis 1, stamp, stamp, send her back, back step, chassis, stamp, stamp. And when he's done enough, he does the end of a normal hands behind the back step, chassis 1, chassis 2. And that is your basics for hands behind the back and stop and go, which is a separate step to hands behind the back. Let me know in the comments if you do this step or if this is food to you, and I'll see you next time. Till then, happy dancing.